Rise again to discuss my amendment number 3450 on biotechnology labeling solutions. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about this amendment and this topic in general. That is a good thing. We should be talking about our food. We should be talking about our farmers and producers, and we should be talking about our consumers as well. It's important, extremely important, to have an honest discussion and an open exchange with dialogue. After all, that is what we do here in the Senate, or that's what we're supposed to do, to discuss difficult issues, craft compromise solutions, and finally vote in the best interests of our constituents. And that's what we're doing here today, exercising our responsibility to cast a vote for what is in the best interest of those who sent us here. So let's start with discussing difficult issues. The basic issue at hand is agriculture biotechnology labeling. Well, Mr. President, if you've heard any of my previous remarks, you've heard me say time and time and time again that biotechnology products are safe, but you don't have to take my word for it. The Agriculture Committee held a hearing late last year where all three agencies in charge of reviewing biotechnology testified before our members. Over and over again, the EPA, the FDA, and the USDA, all three told us that these products are safe and that they are safe for the environment, safe for other plants, and safe for our food supply. This is the gold standard on what is safe with regards to agriculture biotechnology. Not only are these products safe, but they also provide benefits to the entire value chain from producer to consumer. Through biotechnology, our farmers are able to grow more on less land, using less water, less fuel, and less fertilizer. But the difficult issue that we are debating today is about more than recognizing the fact that biotechnology is safe. No, today our decision is about whether or not to prevent a wrecking ball from hitting our entire food supply chain. The difficult issue for us to address is what to do about the patchwork of biotechnology labeling laws that will soon wreak havoc on the flow of interstate commerce of agriculture and food products in every supermarket, every grocery store, up and down Main Street of every community in America. That is what this is about. It's not about safety. It's not about health. It's not about nutrition. It's all about marketing. What we face today is a handful of states that have chosen to enact labeling requirements on information that has nothing to do with health, safety, or nutrition. Unfortunately, the impact of these decisions will be felt all across the country. Those decisions impact the farmers in the fields who would be pressured to grow less efficient crops so manufacturers could avoid these demonizing labels. Those labeling laws will impact distributors who have to spend more money to sort different labels for different states. Those labeling laws will ultimately impact consumers who will suffer from higher priced food, $1,050, pardon me. $1,050 for your average family of four. That's right, if we do nothing, it's not manufacturers who pay the ultimate price, it is the consumer. A study released this year found that changes in the production or labeling of most of the nation's food supply for a single state would impact citizens in each of our home states. The total annual increased cost of doing nothing today, not voting for cloture, could be as much as $82 billion every year. That's a pretty costly cloture vote. That's $1,050 tacked onto each family's grocery bill. That is a direct hit to their pocketbooks. Let me repeat that. If we fail to act today, if we do not have cloture and get to this substitute bill or this compromise bill, the cost to consumers would total as much as $82 billion a year, or $1,050 for hardworking American families. I don't think that's what my colleagues want. I don't think they want to be responsible for that. A cloture vote with an $82 billion price tag? Come on. So this is the difficult issue we must address, and the question is, how do we fix it? That is why we have crafted a compromise solution, put it on the floor for debate and action. The amendment before us today stops this wrecking ball before any more damage can be done. 2 weeks ago, the Agriculture Committee passed a bill on a bipartisan vote, 14-6. I'm very proud of that legislation. It stopped the state-by-state patchwork and provided a national voluntary standard for biotechnology food products. For the first time, the federal government would set a science-based standard, allowing consumers the ability to demand the marketplace to provide more information. And consumers are growing more and more interested in their food, and that is a good thing, Mr. President. We as consumers should learn more about where our food comes from and what it takes to keep our food supply the safest and the most abundant and the most affordable in the world. However, the role of government in this space is to ensure that information regarding safety, health, and nutritional value are expressed directly to consumers. But the information in question today has nothing to do with safety or health or nutrition, so the responsibility and opportunity to inform the consumers falls on the marketplace. If consumers want more information, they demand it by voting with their pocketbooks in the aisles of the grocery store. Now, as our bipartisan bill has come to the floor, I have heard concerns that this voluntary standard was not enough for our consumers. So yet again, we worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. The legislation before us goes further than the committee-passed bill. This legislation addresses concerns with a voluntary-only approach by providing an incentive for the marketplace to provide consumers with more information. So to my friends on this side of the aisle, this legislation allows the market to work. To my friends on that side of the aisle, if the marketplace does not live up to their commitments, if information is not made available to consumers, then this legislation holds the markets accountable by instituting a mandatory standard. And not just any mandatory standard, Mr. President. It's a standard that provides the same options and mechanisms for compliance as outlined, stated publicly by our Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. Simply put, the legislation before us provides us an immediate and comprehensive solution to the unworkable state-by-state patchwork of labeling laws. Now, as chairman of the committee, the sometimes powerful Senate Agriculture Committee, I believe this is a true compromise. And like any bill, it is not perfect. I know that. But to those who criticize this legislation in one breath and yet say they want to compromise with the next, I ask, where is your plan? Where is your solution? We've heard the distinguished senator from Oregon many times on this floor, not a stranger to this floor, criticizing this compromise. And I appreciate, I'm sure we all appreciate his passion. I disagree with his views, but I appreciate that he did put his plan into a bill and put it out for public debate. What I don't understand is why he doesn't want to vote on it. Why do you put a bill out there and then decide that you're not going to vote on it? Why would you not vote to cloture so that you could get to a vote on your bill? We could have voted on his legislation today, yet when he presented with the option to take a vote, he declined. And I've read the press release describing this compromise as maintaining the status quo. Well, truth be known, this compromise achieves just the opposite. In fact, voting no today is the only way that maintains the status quo. Voting no today does nothing to stop the wrecking ball. Voting no today ensures that the instability in the marketplace continues. Voting no today puts farmers and all of agriculture at risk. Voting no today negatively impacts the daily lives of everybody in the food chain, from the farmer who will be pressured to plant fence row to fence row of a crop that is less efficient, to the grain elevator that will have to adjust storage options to separate types of grain, to the manufacturer who will need different labels for different states, to the distributor who will need expanded storage for sorting, and to the retailer who may be unable to afford offering low-cost private label products. And finally, to the consumer who will be forced to pay for all this additional cost to the tune of $82 billion. So now we come to our final task as elected officials of this body, taking a vote. But before we do, we should all know that never before in my experience as chairman of the House Ag Committee and chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee in all the years that I have had the privilege to serve on both committees, we have never seen a bill in the Agriculture Committee with so much support, never. Over 800 organizations, all across the food and agricultural spectrum. 800 organizations who have a stake in this bill. It's at the national and state and local levels. They all support the bill. The bill has the support of the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, the American Farm Bureau, many, many more. Virtually every farm group is in town. Just talked to the American Soybean Association this past week. One farmer stood up and said, hey, if I cannot have agriculture biological crops with regards to increasing the yield that I plant, what am I going to do? I'm going to plant fence row to fence row? Am I going to lose in this situation when farm income is declining and farm credit is getting tighter? The fundamental role of the Agriculture Committee is to protect America's farmers and ranchers who provide a safe, abundant, and affordable food supply to a very troubled and hungry world. So I will be voting yes to do just that, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Voting no today means telling your constituents next week that you are raising their grocery bill by over $1,000. Good luck with that. It's a pretty simple vote. You're either for agriculture or you're not. I yield the floor.